What's up everyone, I'm Luke and today we're going to be reviewing the Onewheel Pint X, the next generation in the pint lineup. This board's a little pocket rocket and I'm so stoked to see what it can do. So let's first start off by talking about the specs of this amazing board. The top speed is 18 miles an hour with a range of 12 to 18 miles, which is absolutely incredible to see where battery technology has now improved from when the XR was released to where the Pint X has been released, because what Onewheel have been able to do is put XR specs in a pint-sized frame, which is absolutely incredible, which means you've got that tiny pocket rocket that's going to be able to shred as far as you used to be able to go on your XR. While we're talking about range, let's talk about the new features which sets out the Pint X from the Pint. With this extended range, it means it's going to give you more freedom to go on longer adventures and really experience that flow state for longer in comparison to the Pint. The Onewheel Pint X, just like the Onewheel Pint, is in that smaller form factor in comparison to the Onewheel XR, which means it's pretty much small enough to take anywhere with you. Let's say you're in the city, you can take it on the subway really easily by holding it with the included mag handle, then you can get straight back on the board and shred, and you've got all those extra miles. I mean, it's crazy to see how technology has been able to improve so much since the release of the XR. Due to the Pint being a smaller board, I, from my experience, would feel like it's better for slightly smaller people, as from my experience, the XR definitely suits my size better, and when you're doing tricks, I find it easier on an XR because you've got a bigger platform to land on. But not everyone's going to be doing tricks. For some people, it is just about getting around the city in the most fun way possible, and if that's what you want, the Pint X is perfect. The Pint X really hits the sweet spot between price, performance and practicality, because we now have XR specs within a pint-sized frame. So what this means is it's actually slightly cheaper than an XR. The XR is around $1,700 and the Pint X is $1,400. Now obviously it's going to cost more the more accessories you buy, but out the box the Pint X is cheaper and you're getting XR performance. Now there is one difference, and that is pushback. As we all know, the Pint had pushback around 14 miles an hour, and it was totally different programming to the Onewheel XR pushback, because on the Pint you'd have really aggressive pushback around 14, which made it much harder to push through to get to a higher top speed. But the incredible thing is Future Motion have listened to our community and now they have raised the pushback threshold on the Pint X. So now you can get up to around 17 miles an hour on your Pint X before you have that more aggressive pushback. And to answer a lot of people's questions, it is the same aggressive Pint pushback, but because it's now at a later stage in the speed, you can cruise at a much higher speed without having to fight the pushback like you did on the original Pint. This additional speed is massive on longer trips. If you're doing 2 miles an hour more, after a couple of miles, you would have covered way more ground than you would have on your Onewheel Pint. And the board is only 27 inches tip to tip, which is crazy to think about how much performance you can get in such a small package. Something different comparing the Pint X to an XR is the Pint has the option to turn on simple stop technology, which is, if you're a beginner, it can be helpful because some people will struggle with the heel lift method when you're learning on an XR, for example, because that weight distribution you have to compensate when you lift your heel. So the Pint, you can turn it on in the app, so when you roll into reverse, it sets the tail down and lets you get off. Now for me personally, I love being able to ride reverse. I ride switch so much on my XR, so I do not ride with simple stop turned on, but it's a great feature if you're trying to enter this Onewheel community and you want to get going in the easiest way possible. The Pint X has the same integrated light bar as the Pint did, which is amazing for showing you your battery life when you're down to 15%, when your board's about to run out, and also if you don't have both your feet on the sensors correctly, it gives you a visual indication when both your sensors are engaged. The Onewheel Pint X now has a slightly different app to the Onewheel Pint. Now, the only difference is, by the looks of it, is after it's saying Skyline, it now says Skyline X or Pacific X or Elevated X, because it's the Pint X model. And they obviously would have slightly tuned it so you can get that higher top speed and really get the max performance you can out of the Pint X. One of the final things I wanted to talk about with the specification is how there is cross-compatible parts between the Pint and the Pint X. You have the same tyre, the same fenders and fender deletes, the same mag handles, the same foot pads, and also, I know a lot of riders like myself, we want to get as much clearance as we can in different situations. So if I want to hit a street session, I'm happy to have those bigger Pint X bumpers, because what it means is you're keeping that underside of your board way more protected, and it's a great surface to slide on if you find the right curb. But for some people that need to always hit big curb nudges, you want as much clearance as you can get, or if you're on the trails. So what you can do is put a Pint bumper in your Pint X, or the other way around. So if you own a Pint and you want extra protection, you can put a Pint X bumper on, or if you have a Pint X and you want more clearance, you can put a Pint bumper on. So it's amazing that Onewheel have left it cross-compatible, so we're not limiting the community here. We have the option to set up the Pint exactly the way we want it. You may have noticed in my video that I'm riding a launch edition Onewheel Pint X. But for anyone buying a Onewheel Pint X further down the line, you're going to be getting the board out of the box blue instead of that yellow that only you could buy in the first 48 hours of them releasing the board. The Onewheel Pint X with the additional range and additional speed allows us to live that endless adventure that we all love. So let's now go and shred the Pint X on the trails and see what it can do. What's up everyone, my name's Luke, I'm Riding Glide's Onewheel Ambassador, and today I'm going to be putting the Pint X through its paces to see how hard you can shred it. The Onewheel's become my life. I've now got 5 Onewheels myself. I'm sponsored by many different companies pushing these boards to the limits, and I'm so grateful to be where I am, all thanks to the Onewheel. It's an incredible mindfulness weapon, and what you can do on this board is insane, and where the sport is going is incredible. So I'm super stoked to see the latest and greatest board from Future Motion and see what it can do. So we're now out on the Onewheel Pint X to see what it can do on the trails. Now this thing's a little pocket rocket. For me personally, I feel like it's a trail shredder, but also for someone who wants to be in the city and they want to get around super fast on a super sick little board, this thing would be amazing. Because for me, I either ride 2 different ways. I either ride my XR on the streets, just to, you know, hit the tricks because it's got that bigger platform, and I do also enjoy my time on the trail. But to be honest, this being so nimble is so fun because you've got all this nimbleness from this tiny little tire that just allows you to shred anywhere. And even on the slick, you can see this is wet ground, but we got a lot of traction. So now going through some sand, you can see how this board has so much potential. It does not lose grip on any terrain. It's a little carving pocket rocket, this thing. Got so much torque, you can hit any line you want. It's so fun. Riding a Pint is just such a fun experience. It's such a small board that it's so maneuverable. Like, I can ride this thing wherever I want, and I know I've got full confidence that this thing's got the power, the range, the torque to do what I want it to do. So you may have noticed I'm now riding without a fender today, and there's for 2 reasons. Number one, when you buy a Onewheel Pint, or any Onewheel, they do not come with a fender because it's a personal thing. Some people want fenders, some people don't. For my style, I'm not really a fender guy because I enjoy seeing that wheel. I think it looks so sick. And also, the reason is because especially if you're going through really thick mud, sometimes your fender may get clogged up. So this is a great way to keep your board looking sick. So one of the things that's amazing about any Onewheel is it allows you to find your freedom, because you can really experience places like you never have before. So one of the things I love about the Onewheel is there's no remote. As you can see, I've got both my hands free, and it's the same as all the Onewheel models. And it's one of my favorite things about the Onewheel. You enter such a flow state because of it. Your hands are free, you forget about everything else, you focus on the moment, and it's amazing for your mental health. And this is why, I mean, you can get a Onewheel Pint for around 900, and now the Pint X I believe is around 1400. Then you've got the XR around 1700 and the GT 2200. But that is not that much money when you actually think about it. People do use this as a mental health weapon because you can ride this thing every day, get outside, find new places, and feel alive. So it's now time to see how fast the Pint X can go. Now, let's quickly go back to the Onewheel Pint. The Onewheel Pint had pushback around 14 to 15 miles an hour. And as I'm sure many of you Onewheel riders know, when the Pint pushes back, it pushes back really aggressively, so it makes it a lot harder to get much faster. Now, pushback is a safety feature, but as a rider myself who's ridden a lot, I ride an XR, which is a lot softer pushback, so it's much easier to keep going faster to above 20 miles an hour, which isn't recommended, but it's a hell of a good time. So what we're going to do now is see what speed we're going to get pushback on the Pint X. So we're now going to set up our Onewheel Pint X to get the best performance out of this board. Now, I usually ride a Pacific X, which is like the mission equivalent. If you ride an XR, I love it, it's super flow, but I want to get the best performance out of this board. So I'm now going to turn on Skyline X, which gives me the most amount of power. If you read in the app here, what it says is it goes full pocket rocket in Skyline. You get super responsive and punchy riding, and we're going to be pretty much full aggressive. So let's see what this pint can do. It says it's going to hit 18, but we'll find out. In 3, 2, 1, now. See that acceleration? It's full acceleration without getting a nosedive. So we're in Skyline X, let's see what this pint can do. And that's pushback. Okay, so speed test done on the Onewheel Pint X. Now, I'm giving you guys a realistic speed here that I would believe to say is a safe speed on the Pint X. So I'm seriously impressed by the acceleration out of this pint. I'd say it's even slightly faster acceleration than the original pint, because this Pint X can really pull more power out of this bigger battery. So I was in Skyline, crazy fast acceleration as you guys saw, and I hit 17 miles an hour when I felt the pushback come, which is a massive upgrade from the pint, because that would come in around 14. So 17 miles an hour, you guys can cruise around 16 to 17, and that's a great cruising speed on a little pocket rocket to get around the city. So from my side, that's an amazing upgrade from Future Motion. They've done a great job getting more speed out of the pint. And yes, you could probably push it further like I do on my XR, but I wanted to give you guys a realistic top speed that's a safe speed. One of the best things about the Onewheel is when you finish riding, how you can be able to carry it around. Let's take a look at an XR. For example, as you can see here, there's no mag handle on the side, but you've got a massive handle here at the front, which makes it super easy to carry. Now, the difference with the Pint and the Pint X, you have no handle at the front, but what Future Motion have done really cleverly is add this magnetic handle called the mag handle. See how it pulls in and out as soon as you let go? So then you'll be able to pick up the board and ride where you want to ride. So one of the things that's amazing about a Onewheel is its all-terrain capability. You can ride on sand, but also you can ride through the heather. As you can see, no problem, still got that speed. And this is what's amazing. You can ride anywhere without even thinking about it. So we're now going to look at how maneuverable this pint can be through a single track trail. So you can carve around as much as you want, but then when you get into this part of the trail here, you can see how you can just choose your line, choose exactly where you want to ride. You're not limited by the board, you're limited by your imagination. What I love about the Onewheel is how fluid it feels. So we can go along right now, lean forwards to accelerate, lean back to brake, and it's just so smooth. The software that they got in these boards is incredible. Another thing I wanted to touch on was the tyre. So this is a 4.5-inch tyre, where a stock XR is 6.5 inch. It's a lot smaller tyre and it's way more rounded. So from my personal opinion, I really like that. It's super nimble, you can get down really tight terrain, but it's slightly less stable if you're a beginner, but then you do have the simple stock software, so if you are a beginner and you're struggling to dismount, this can really help you. So let's set the scene. You're on your commute and you want to put the brakes on. So in 3, 2, 1, now. So you can see how fast these boards can stop. One of my favorite things about the Onewheel is you can turn simple stop off and you can actually ride in reverse like this. And what that goes to show is if you're on a decline or an incline and you want to hold your board dead still, because the motor can go forwards or reverse, it can hold you dead still no matter what, which is amazing. Let's say you're on your commute and you need to go back a meter, you just roll back and it's super easy. So it's one of my favorite things about the Onewheel. So we're now going to attempt a 20% gradient hill. Now I could be in elevated, but to be honest, Skyline or even Pacific, it's more than enough because you've got that power. So that wraps up shredding on the Onewheel Pint X. I've had such an amazing time and I just love it, and it's incredible to see how Future Motion have managed to get XR specs in a pint frame. This thing's a flow stake machine. I've had such an amazing time riding it. For me personally, XR is more my vibe because it's bigger, suits my bigger feet more, and also I think I just love that like homemade look, but this thing looks so polished. So for me personally, if you want to get into this Onewheel community, look no further and buy a Pint X. So I'm now with my fellow Onewheel shredder Jay to really see what this pint could do with a lighter rider. So obviously Jay's a lot lighter and smaller than me, so you're going to be able to get way more range and speed out of the pint. At least that's the plan. And also we want to see how well the lights work in the night. So I've got my XR with me with the XR lights, and we've also got the Pint X to see how well it does even in the dark. And let's go shred. So that ride was absolutely epic. We have really experienced how amazing these boards are and the whole different vibe that you experience riding in the dark because of the integrated lights in the Onewheel that make it easy to know where you're going on any terrain. It's now time, as you're seeing on the screen right now, to see how fast we can get this Onewheel Pint to go with Jay, who's obviously a lighter rider. Now, as you can see from the speed, Jay didn't manage to get above 17 miles an hour for that long in this speed run, and I believe there's many factors that play into this. Number one, it's because he's at 70% battery. Now, obviously that means there's less power in the battery pack to go to the motor, so that will naturally, as the battery goes down more and more, the more your speed is affected. But how we can also see, at the beginning of the ride, when Jay was just having a great time and really in a flow state, he managed to hit almost 19 miles an hour on the Pint X, which really goes to show when it's got a full charge, that pushback definitely is coming in a bit later and it's allowing you to reach a higher top speed. So it's absolutely incredible to see this new pushback threshold that they've put in the Pint X. It gives the Pint X a whole nother level of speed that you can experience. So we've just finished the range test and I think we can both say we're pretty stoked on the results. So Jay,
definitely
tell us how it went.
I can proudly say that we did 20.9 miles.
So obviously that's incredible for many reasons, but the first reason, this board on the box is it's going to get 12 to 18 miles of range, and this has exceeded expectations, and I cannot wait to see what the GT gets. What's also interesting is this has not been an easy ride. Like, we've been pushing this board through the pushback, we've been seeing how fast we can get it to go, going up and down hills, off-road, thick grass, up and down the hills. Obviously it's going to use more battery. So what this board can get in high aggressive riding modes on all terrain. I mean, ESJ is a lighter rider, but I mean, that's incredible results. We've got so many more miles than it promised, and what Onewheel has made here is absolutely incredible, and we're stoked for the future of this sport.
Exactly, and this is a true shredding machine out there, and it's amazing what you can get.
I mean, you cannot fault it. Onewheel, you guys rock. So thank you for watching this video, and I really hope you've learned something about the Onewheel Pint X. It's an amazing board and it fits into their lineup perfectly. You can still buy the Pint, which is the smallest, lightest and most affordable Onewheel out there, and it's still amazing. Yes, it doesn't go quite as far as fast, but you still get the amazing Onewheel feeling that we all love. Then you go from Pint to Pint X, which you talked about is basically an XR in a Pint form. Then you can get yourself an XR, which is the same spec, but it's that bigger frame, which some people prefer, like myself, and it's got the slightly different pushback. And then you can go top of the line beast of the GT. Now, the Onewheel GT is going to be an incredible board. You've got more power, more range, and it's the ultimate Onewheel experience. And you're given such an option now by Onewheel, you can buy the perfect board for you. So thank you for watching my video, and I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you had, I'd be super stoked if you liked and subscribed to my channel. I'm a young and passionate filmmaker and Onewheel shredder, and I always try to put out the best content I can for our community. So if you're stoked to go ride like me, I'll catch you in the next one.